I know that there will be a lot about, well, you want to know a lot about format, but I don't know, do you have any other program? Is there any other specific interest, or just tell me how I can be most useful to you, and I'll be happy to.
You have no mustache.
Exactly, but it will grow again. But I had a major shaving. Hello, Kaisa. And yeah, so clean, young, and yeah. But by the way, among other news, for, well, Emma knows, but for all the others, I am officially a student of psychology now, starting from this year. So thank you.
Wow.
I joined this interesting field of study.
As a major, or?
Well, I'm starting with the bachelor.
Yeah.
From the scratch. So yeah, general psychology course for 3 years, and then we will see.
Nice.
So I'm still trying to. There's one girl who is still trying to join us, I think.
Okay.
So.
What's your dream job?
Sorry, come again?
Did you hear? Sorry, I'm eating. What's your dream job? What are you going to be when you're an adult?
Oh, I have no idea. I will be traveling around the world, delivering trainings on airplanes, because I love training and I love airplanes. So, so delivering training at 10,000 feet. It could be the Mile High Training Club instead of the other Mile High Club.
So you will work for Ryanair?
No, they're doing too short flights. So, but yeah, when you're flying to Australia, why don't you want to learn about, I don't know, leadership or project management?
That would be awesome.
It's like, imagine, like this larger lounge. Okay, now let's do a wake-up game in the plane, and everybody starts jumping and.
It seems that you need an energizer.
Exactly.
That's a really good idea.
Emma? Can you somehow help Linda?
Yeah, I'm helping her.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Fred.
No problem.
Yeah, but I do think we can start and she'll join us then, hopefully soon.
Sure.
Yeah. So, yeah. You asked, what do we wish for from you?
Yes.
Well, what I wish, I heard that you have some or quite a lot of knowledge, advanced knowledge about format. So I have no idea what that means, but I think it was Emma and Ville, maybe Kaisa as well, who mentioned about that. So yeah, I don't know. Just to give some new thoughts, about format.
Okay, new thoughts compared to, what would be the old thoughts then?
Old thoughts are just the basic, what I or we know about format. That's my old thoughts.
So, I mean, but I guess that are you all using format when you're designing your trainings? How are you usually, I don't know, is there maybe something some dark areas about it, or just to know if you want to go through a bit again the theory of it or some practical applications and.
Well, I think I have one question. Like, how do you do format with storytelling? Like, I don't know. It's like sometimes the stories get like a bit out of hand, and combining format properly, it's hard to like make it like it's not that hard. But I don't know. That's interesting new thing. How do you combine like format and storytelling, for example?
Well, okay. Although this is something that is a bit out of the direct experience, what would come to mind is somehow have the story that kind of satisfies the different question as it unfolds. So maybe you kind of bend a bit the plot line to the needs of the different type of learners. As in, you are kind of making sure that the different chapters or episodes of your story are tackling the question of the cycle as it is usually. So yeah, I mean, because well, in storytelling, usually you might present maybe first the problem, and then I don't know if you follow certain specific patterns of storytelling, but there is usually the kind of the hero journey. It's a very common one. So there is an issue, and the main hero or the character cannot solve a certain issue, cannot solve a certain problem, or fails. So from the failure, there is the awareness of the problem, and then through a new level of skill, consciousness, awareness, or after practicing with some mentor, then the hero succeed. Well, this is a kind of standard plot line that is usually referred as to the journey of the hero. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's a bit, like it's often connected. All the famous movies also follow this plot line, so like Star Wars and all the classics. So this one fits some narrative interest, follows some other principles, but maybe this wouldn't be, let's say, really following format. So you have to shape up the plot line in a way that you somehow satisfy all the question in the in the right order. So, for example, maybe you give a bit more, instead of more a personal point of view from the point of view of the hero, you give a wider background, as this provides the why to your listeners. And from the wider background, you maybe then present the issue. So this is more defining the what. And then so it's a bit maybe less captivating than what would be the natural hero's journey.
Yeah.
But it would fit this. So if you feel that the type of learners can benefit from it, you make a slightly less fascinating story, as it is a bit more maybe learning impactful. Also, one thing that is that you can see format as the different points of view. So besides the normal question, the what, how, why, what, how, and what if, you can have a different look at the quadrants. So when in the moment in which you are moving from the experience to the reflection, you connect it very much with what is related to yourself. So this would be all the the activities and the feelings that you have more inside. Okay, and I'm thinking this could be also a way to build the story. You have to work a bit on it, but so the first quadrant would be very much personally focused, very much into the I dimension. Then the second quadrant is often linked to the external. So it can be, for example, it's often connected with the external expert, right? Because it's about reflection. So this is day. Okay. Normally, if you think of the learning process, this is when we have this, let's say, external source, so from the reflection that comes from learning from books and so on. But this, in terms of putting it a pronoun, is they. Okay. And then when you are moving from this kind of thinking, examining to, again, the doing, so it's the third quadrant, and it's normally the how question that leads this quadrant, you can link it to the it, because the how focuses on the method of solving a problem. So if you will, this is the more concrete. It's more the thing that is, let's say, that the actual object that you have to go through. So it's connected with it. And finally, when you are going back to the actual, from the acting doing, you're going back to experiencing again, you see it in a more broad light. So now it has become we. It's more as a plural, because you are somehow, from starting alone, from I, you are now more inclusive and more, let's say, able to connect to the outside. So recapping, the first quadrant, it's connected with I, and the normal question would be why. The second quadrant is, that naturally is associated with what, is connected with they. The how, the third quadrant, we connected with it, the issue itself. And the fourth one, as we are experiencing again, normally the what if, is connected with we. So this is quite interesting also in terms of lesson plan, but it's connected also with the storytelling, for example. So I guess that this could be a way to build either a different lesson plan, including, different way to people, or building a story around an ever-changing scope that starts from the internal towards a more inclusive one. Does this answer? Does this give some insight on how to use that?
It gives more about like the synthesis of these things. But yeah, I think I got an answer in a way to this. Like combining storytelling and format is new for me, and the power of storytelling is quite like super awesome. But sometimes it gets easily far away from format. The stories can be like, they can have the ingredients of format, but in like the order might be different or something like that. But,
I think it's very important to consider the scope and how large. For example, a very complex and comprehensive storytelling could be really the line for all over the...
Noni.
Hello. Welcome.
Hi, Linda.
Hello.
Hello, Linda. So if it's a very comprehensive story, then you can use this this element so that your whole story is actually somehow format-like and drags the learner in this process. At the same time, what I usually do is maybe having a story used in a very specific scope of the training. And I usually use a story either in the how part. So instead of an example, the moment of storytelling could be a more articulate, a more metaphorical way of providing example for the how. And why is that? Because usually, again, I follow this very classic hero's journey. Look, it's like, oh, look how the hero solved the issue. And I kind of squeeze the how exactly as the how that is the case in point in the training. So it's just somehow you see externally the same how that was more taught directly in the training or presented as in theory, and you connect with it. Another example that, okay, again, I wouldn't even dare to call it storytelling. It's even more just more example, of course, in the what if part. Like when you come back to the actual experimentation and living again the experience in first person, you provide different examples. But then those are more like, sharing simple stories, not a very, how to say, crafted storytelling with a clear scope in mind. So maybe it would be more correct to label it as examples rather than really storytelling.
Thank you. And now I think I got like a lot of new ingredients for my combination in the future of these things.
Okay, I'm glad.
Yeah, about how to fit the stories into format and how to keep the format closer and not to get carried away maybe with the storytelling part.
What did you find difficult? What do you mean by getting carried away? You kind of lose a bit focus or what?
Well, yeah, carried away in such a way where the story becomes more important than the format. Even though, so I would like pay more attention to storyline instead of format, and even though the format elements would be there, I wouldn't like have the structural emphasis of them. And some important things could be like shown up in like minor sentences or something like that.
Yeah.
And that will take away the attention from the format, the main points of the everything to the story, maybe.
Yeah, sometimes it's going to be the small takeaways from the story that are kind of maybe not the main plot twist, but a small sentence that you kind of carefully plant inside, and like as you said, it can be a smaller detail that is more connected to format, so you still have that structural structural solidity that you want. And yeah. Also, in terms of focus, I guess it's a very important matter of rehearsing. But yeah, I know that that's a very basic suggestion, basic advice, as in you kind of have your story should be kind of battle ready, as in you tried it many times, and again, choice of words and stuff like this. This comes, if you happen to deliver maybe the same session again, and very much connected to it. Okay, what did you find distracting? And from the audience, right? From the participant, you can have this kind of feedback. What did you find distracting, or was the story too long, too short? And you might have some direct feedback about how case in point was the story.
Yeah. Emily asked that could we? Oh yeah.
Yeah, sorry to be away for a while, but technical things. But could you fill us up where you are?
It's good that we have one more participant. So yeah, I mean, I was answering in a very long manner the question of Kari that was about using format in storytelling. So I guess that maybe you heard some part about the different pronouns. First, I mentioned the hero's journey, typical format of a story, which is very. First, are you familiar with that, or the hero's journey? So the hero's journey would be, the main character goes into a challenge, faces some issue, basically fails, and then by discovering new skills, awareness, or practicing something with a master, can face again the challenge in a way that he's successful. So that's a very traditional or classic plot line also in, as I said, in Hollywood movies. And you use this because it's kind of a, the English adjective fails me. It's a very, constructive, constructive and very profitable example to follow. So how to include this? We said maybe we have to shift the perspective and kill a bit the interest of the story by presenting, the issue before to satisfy the general why question rather than the internal perspective of the character. So perfect. There is a link, so I'm sure it explained even more in detail than what I said. And the other thing, I made a comparison that is some models, some interpretation of format as linking it to different pronouns. Namely, the cycle is I as the first quadrant, they as second quadrant, it as third quadrant, and we as fourth quadrant. And around the focus of these pronouns, who are you talking about, or what, for the third quadrant? You can, let's say, you can really write your story around it. This was a quick recap of the thing. I can send you some material also connected to it.
Thank you.
No problem, you're welcome. And yeah, I guess, yeah, just if you have questions, and maybe we dig, or maybe this first question raised some other ideas or doubts in mind. And
I was thinking, yeah, first my comment was before that can you make this mentoring in format? But yeah, bullshitting. I don't know if you did it already.
I'll try to have the as meta level as possible.
Comments, yes, please.
Exactly, meta.
Yeah, I was thinking about delivering about format during TTT or for normal psychology students, for example, because many of us are actually doing something with format, like teaching format to the others at the moment. So how do you like to deliver on it? And what I sometimes face when we talk about format is that cold learning cycle thing is usually confusing people more if you don't have enough time. Like, I feel format is a lot easier to understand, but when you combine with cold, it somehow gets a lot more confusing and people are like, maybe too much information. So do you like to combine two of them, and how to make them fit well together? That's the question.
What I usually do, well, in the trainings that are more like train-the-trainer programs, I usually separate this into different days. This at least what I've been doing. Yeah, also this summer, for example. This is how I structured it. I delivered a train-the-trainer for medical students, and one day was more about the general awareness. There are different type of learners. So starting from a very broad concept of, different people learn in different ways and presented from many points of view, up until the learning styles. So there you have the more theoretical element of Kolb. So that is one item of theory that is delivered to them, and I would say they have a very theoretical relation with it. I mean, they can think of example, we discuss about it, so it becomes clear. But it's a kind of a good background knowledge that as a trainer you should be aware of that. And somehow this closes an item and this closes a box. Then after one good night of sleep, well, that depends how much they party in a train-the-trainer event, but hypothetically, after a good night of sleep, then it comes the more actionable item. Look, you remember this cool cycle that we discussed yesterday? Look how you can include it and becomes a tool when it comes to training design, when you're really planning every block of your session. And we try to refer back, but then again, if referring back to cold learning cycle becomes an obstacle, then I find it fair to leave it aside and just show them format as if it was a new thing. I mean, usually it's not overwhelming, especially if it's divided into days. But let's say maybe for some participants, if they are uncomfortable with it, like, but what is the connection? And of course, you can take them aside in a break. But let's say the general course is like, okay, I'm presenting a new thing, so this is format and how it works. And maybe the connection would come later on, because at that stage in the course, because of how much training they get, if they're tired and so on, these are two different items, and maybe in a later moment it will jump to the mind like proverbial haha moment in which they will connect the two theories and see the difference. The good thing is that if on one hand Kolb gives the more validity to also the tool format, they can be individually understood and even kept separate. It's a very practical approach, I would say, but each of them stands alone. So it's like, okay, on that day you learned that. Is it clear by itself? Yes. Look, today we learned something different. Good enough. This is for planning the training. This other one is just a way to make me reflect that I have to address different type of people in my audience, and that's it. And then maybe 1 week after the event, it's like, aha, okay, so this block of the training really goes up the alley of those kind of learners, and this block, okay, now I see that. But they can be treated independently, and again, this can be also a strategy depending on the time and how much. For example, in many times, in BEST engineers, of course, it's only the tool is given. Okay, these things works in this way, so there is not very much background on learning styles, and the format is more presented as, okay, this is a method to structure it, kind of take it for good and apply it because this makes your training sound. And for example, for those participants that were a bit puzzled or they wanted to know more, then in a separate moment I would add a bit more theoretical background. And this is just to give a different example in BEST where only one is standing, and for most people it works, although it's a more, how to say, narrow application without having the broader overview.
Yeah, this is actually what we've done as well for local psychology students, for example, to Kolb actually maybe mention that if you want to read, go for it, but we don't want to confuse you more, and people are really keen on format, so yeah.
Okay. So you keep that out of the picture and just give, okay, I see.
Yeah. I think Emma has a question or comment.
Please, Emma.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's very depending on what are the needs of the audience, but sometimes I also agree that Kolb creates this what the fuck now, but also we kind of have to make them go through that, so that, because for me, for instance, when I think about format, I don't think about format as much as I think about Kolb, like the learning cycle that should happen. And sometimes people might want to skip phases and just say, because format is very intuitive, like yeah, sure, why, and but to kind of build the basis to last for a longer time, I think they cannot be separated, but that's my opinion.
What is the experience of others? How much do you feel that your participants are having a hard time connecting, or do you find it confusing? Do you think is this too much when you put both of them, or? Ville?
I think the most confusing thing is the Honey and Mumford, because it's explained in different ways in different contexts, and the Honey and Mumford, the activist, pragmatist, whatever, I don't even remember them because I don't really like them. But that's something that often confuses, and especially with the learning cycle, sometimes the labels are put different places. It's not exactly like always the same, and it even confused us sometimes when we were planning a TPT. I think for me at least, the most confusing thing is that I'm not sure what's exactly the right and the original thing, but I think Honey and Mumford is something that really confuses people when you try to connect it with Kolb learning cycle. That's at least my view on it. But format in itself is usually easy to get and understand and to explain to people. But I've had the same feeling that Kolb in itself might not be so difficult, or at least to learn the axis, but at least how to actually explain that, you know, you go from here to here, and that's called this, and this happens here, and so on, and alone, I think it can be very confusing to people, especially as very often in training events we don't actually go even over what is learning. And what are different stages of learning, for example. So on. But yeah, I'm being confusing, but
awareness and learning, like knowing that you know, and this kind of levels, for example.
Yeah, but I think for me the most confusing things are usually combining how to actually explain how the axis and the cycle relates to each other. I'm not sure what would be the best way to explain that.
Well, okay. What I can what is easy for me is this kind of well, easy for me to pass on is like this fact of, you know, alternating different mental actions. That is yeah, that is something that was kind of an underlying principle that somehow stands also behind MBTI. There are these different mental actions, and at all the 4 steps of the quadrant, you are actually doing different ones. So by the fact that you're alternating them, this helps, you know, the brain doing different things and not stick only on one course of action, but introducing this variety. So this variety should be more, let's say, proper and keep things more balanced. And I don't know, that would be a way to have, you know, the 2 different axes, and that's why they are kind of, you're jumping from one axe to another, and so on. I don't know how this is useful, because on one hand you're kind of making it a bit more complex, on the other hand you're giving a reason for it. So again, the different type of learners, the one that are really needing the why to understand it, they would be happy to know why there is this jumping, and the one that are more pragmatic pragmatic would be like maybe fine with without it. It's yeah, I mean, it can be very much, you know, between this kind of yeah, the moments of getting information, of gathering data, or in one word, sensing, as in this is close to the senses, because when you're experiencing something, which would be the top and the bottom of the axis, you have this mental process. And then, no, on the other horizontal sides, you have this more processing, or, you know, making decision, or in another word, more like judging, like having the different process.
I have a technical. Would it be maybe possible to look at a shared screen or a picture of the model? Because I think maybe not everyone has stayed up many nights thinking about format.
Oh, how unfortunate, Emma! You should tell them what they are missing, right? Let me see which one. Google Art? No, Scoot and Doodle probably is the best. I guess I'm not sure if you all are having also the white screen. Do you also see it, or?
You have to press käytä sovellusta. that popped up over Fred. Is this like a drawing thing?
It's a kind of shared drawing board. Now, because basically I would like to, no, wait, I would like to put some.
I have a picture actually that I just downloaded. I could try to here.
Okay.
Did it work?
Perfect. Yeah. There you have also the Mumford and Honey names. Yeah, I can see it. Can everybody see that?
Of course not.
Nope.
So, I'll speak in Finnish for 5 seconds.
Please.
Eli siihen Fredin pään päälle tuli semmoinen käytä sovellusta, joku bling-juttu. Eli tässä keskustelussa, tuliko teille se?
Vai pitääkö se olla se nettiselain auki?
Niin kuin tässä meidän keskustelussa, missä näkyy meidän naamat,
Joo.
niin tuli semmoinen, ainakin mulle, niin kun Fred avasi tämän sovelluksen, niin tuli semmoinen bling,
Ei
niin kuin
mulle.
Fredin päälle semmoinen juttu, että käytä sovellusta.
Tuolla vasemmalla pitäisi löytyä sellainen kuin Scoot and Doodle. Painakaa sitä.
Eli tommonen oranssi, siinä on joku tommonen ihme pingviini, joka tanssii.
Joo.
Mutta jos ei se näy, niin mä voin laittaa teille tämän saman linkin tänne keskusteluun, niin sieltä näkee sen saman kuvan.
Kiitos.
Okay, and we can talk in English again.
Okay. And yeah, I can. Yeah, you also have the more formatted external one. The inside is the Mumford and Honey, and I remember there are also some interesting videos. This can be also some, I don't know, more as background information stuff that you can watch later. I can give you the links afterwards. There is a nice one by Berenice McCarthy, which is the one which actually worked on the format, and yeah, so you can see a bit also the genesis of it. And I'm thinking, yeah, I was also reading some stuff about the different, although it's maybe not the thing that I'm most solid on, but connections on the different areas of the brain and the different parts of a format. As in, there are different stimuli because of that. So it's a bit related again to the learning styles, but I remember reading about also the different brain connections and more the brain connection that happen as you go through the cycle and as you stop in the different points. But yeah. This is very technical, especially for me, and I don't even know how much it's interesting because I guess we hardly go to such level of detail, especially when we are talking about delivering trainings and teaching training design. So the idea is that it does not only make sense as a development of the learning style, but it's very kind of brain-based, as in based on the brain actions, on the mental actions, because of the duality. So the sensing on one hand, and this integrating and generating action, these two mental/brain action. Does it make sense? I mean, because you probably have studies and that, and is it something that you relate to?
Yes, I'm thinking that for me it makes a lot of sense when we say it like, okay, this one is the more No. Which one was the sensing one? The perception, right?
Yes.
So I'm thinking this makes sense, and concrete experience makes sense, but this theorizing, like how does it relate to sensing? This is what I'm struggling with, I think, sometimes. Do you get what I mean?
You mean what is on the left, basically, or
the perception continuum?
Okay, the perception continuum.
Yeah, was it? Did you refer to that one as sensing or the other one?
Yeah, the perception continuum is perceiving or sensing. Yeah, I consider them as, yeah, exactly. That is, they're the two different ways of, yeah, sensing. So you find hard abstract conceptualization, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Connect it with sensing. Yeah. The idea is that somehow for what I see, the key word here is own. In the explanation, drawing their own conclusion. So you're kind of, let's say, in a more, let's say, disconnected from the outer world, still kind of trying to make some sense, but still on your own and based on the information. I mean, there is a mental action as you have the data itself, right? So it's not only like what you observe in the very moment in which you're actually like really seeing or kind of touching with your hands, but this is more like kind of you're processing, but you're still not kind of building upon. It's kind of a very simple way. It's because look at also not only as a single item, but look at what comes before. That's why it's a cycle, and they're not just four separate steps. Because if you see the other element, the one on top of the perception continuum, the concrete experience, comes from the active experimentation. So there you are on the outside. You're kind of, imagine really being in the action. So that is the moment in which, well, perception is very easy and kind of immediate to. It's what we really connect to the senses, right? The seeing, the hearing, the touching, and the tasting, if that's a learning experience that involves taste. And then you have the processing of, or making decision or judgment, using your judgment. You have this reflective observation on the right. So here you are building a lot of conclusions, and then you have, let's say, a more intellectual kind of sensing. So given all this mental construction that you have, how does that feel to you? And if you remember it, when we were talking about the pronouns and we were discussing about I and they, this second block was they, because reflecting on it, when exactly from Mumford and Honey we are into the theorist, is like, okay, what is the knowledge that I can get from the outside? So from the authorities, from what I don't know, books or articles are telling me, So that's a reflection, and that is already coming after the concrete experience. But now you are on your own. That's why the one on the bottom, abstract contextualization, the south, if we want, is sensing. Because it's like, okay, good, this comes from the outside. Let me see how I make it mine. Let me see how this is my way of internalizing it. So it's somehow a sensing, a very intellectual and brain-based sensing, not a very physical and being in the moment kind of sensing, but it's still at sensing. And as you make it yours, it's like, okay, that is the grand system of things. This is what I got from it. and let me try it out. There you go with active experimentation, as is the other. So a complete different level of perception, complete different level of sensing, one very physical and one very, very abstract and intellectual, but it's still a sensing because it's here with my own sensors, in this case only mental and intellectual sensor. What do I get? What do I see mentally from the whole bigger theory? Does it explains it? Is it a bit more clear?
Yeah. Nice to get some new thoughts. Thank you. Yeah.
I don't know. Do you want maybe? Shall we do like some more very simple examples based on this, so that we like kind of training like examples? Would this be helpful? Yeah. Okay. I see some thumbs up, at least one. So.
Yes.
Yeah, well, okay. For example, one thing that I actually use that's also based on my experience. Okay, sailing. Okay, I kind of love sailing, and yeah, my father actually put me on a boat when I was 6 years old. So let's start from the top, the concrete experience. Okay, so my father puts me in a boat, and I'm physically there. I mean, I can see the sails, and I touch the water, and this boat moves in a way that I really do not fully understand, but I'm having the concrete experience. And then as a smart kid, I have my own reflection on this. So you see we are moving in the first quadrant. And then I have the reflections in it. This moment of reflection can be, for example, maybe my father doing some drawing of boats at home. So after the experience, to make me understand, let's say, how the boat steers, how the boat change course. Okay, so this is kind of an external thing. So I'm kind of fulfilling also this need for theory, the need for the grand system. Then, out of all the standard rules of navigation and how sailboat works, I'm having this again sensing moment, as in, okay, wait, but if I learn that when I move the rudder or the steering wheel to the right, the boat goes left, maybe my own conclusion is also the opposite might be true. Okay? Or if I learn that moving the sail in this direction creates one type of result, maybe moving the sail in the opposite way would move the boat in the opposite one. Okay, so this is from the grand system of things. I make my own conclusions. So this is again this mental perception of all this data that is presented under me. What do I take inside? Okay, so intellectual kind of sensing. And as I develop these things, I'm creating now my own strategy. Okay, so that's why here we are in the third step. So I'm creating my line of action, creating my way of applying, which is a very pragmatic thing. So in this way, I'm as a kid learning to sail. I'm trying to figure out how this thing works, and I'm really eager to put it in practice. And in the moment in which I put it in practice, I'm, let's say, this time deliberately, not as a bag of potatoes put on a boat, but this time willingly, deliberately, with some ideas in mind, I'm playing with the sails, I'm playing with the rudder and steering the boat. So this moment of when the active experimentation starts, I'm in the fourth quadrant, where I'm really experiencing, what if the sails goes this way, where will the boat go? What if I steer the rudder in a certain way, where the boat will go? And the result of my playing around is the concrete experience. And from then again, okay, for example, I learned some stuff, but maybe screwed up something else. Let me again go back to the theory. Let me ask my father something else. Okay, so I'm reflecting again. You see, we are starting again the circle. We're starting again the circle, so I'm again reflecting it. So anyway, it was more mainly focused on what Emma asked. So you see how it is still a kind of perception, this abstract conceptualization. Is the fact that you make it personal, you make the personal takeouts, the personal points from a more wide theory. That's why it's sensing or perception. Yay. Yes, I think Guys has a question, yeah? Oh, there is a comment. And why do you think that from needs analysis the participants are all reflectors and theorists? Or, I don't know, do you have any idea why it comes out this way?
Linda, unmute you.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ask directly, like, do you mostly learn from experience, or do you like to reflect things and thought about it and upside down think about it, or do you need high, like, mikä on tieteellinen, scientific evidence? Are you very evidence-based person, and if you see 99% of people really want to have like hardcore evidence-based stuff, then how much should I put effort on that?
Well, on one hand, I would be saying, of course, you have to do what your participant want in terms of learning style. At the same time, I see a strong bias because, well, again, I'm assuming that maybe you have an audience of students. So learning is often associated to a certain style. Okay, like we learn from books and we learn from a very academic setting. Then again, if maybe, for example, the sailing, or we often, as an example, use sailing or biking or something like this, because these are also learning experiences that try to put people away from the more learning, as in learning a subject or learning for an exam or learning like that, which still can be possible. That, okay, I need to read the whole sailing manual, and there you have definitely more theorist or reflector. But yeah, I would say in the moment in which you ask, try to provide a different, maybe just you ask the question and you provide a set of examples, and the different examples should be from different fields, so then they can compare. Okay, yeah, in school I kind of learn this way because that's the main thing how we learn. But in another environment, which is still a learning experience, is might be just a complete different way. And yeah, of course you can add something.
Yeah, I think it's also related to Linda's question, and also another question kind of following, because what I've realized in this working life, where people are not very used to having training kind of sessions, like even though they would all benefit of having format kind of sessions, but it can be sometimes really hard to convince people to take the practical tasks, and sometimes you don't even have time for that. So like when you're delivering trainings for students, they are really open, like, give me anything, I can do whatever most of the time. But then adults who have been in this like classroom settings and they like to listen to the lectures, it's sometimes really hard to make them fit format. It's not really a question, but my thought. Did you get it?
Yeah. Again, one thing that I found really, well, on one hand surprising but also wonderful is very much how, well, when I manage, because does not always work, but when I manage to kind of introduce the playfulness of a session is usually the kind of the way in which I kind of sneak in a bit more open-mindedness of maybe experimenting a bit as well. And for those who don't understand the playfulness, I mean, or they look at it suspiciously, you explain that the playfulness is not just, I mean, the playfulness itself as a reason has some ground to be there in the training. And so if it works, you win also the more skeptical ones and the ones that may say not happy with playfulness. And okay, then you have hopefully playfulness as an agreed, as a shared moment, and from there you have a bit more opening to experimenting. Again, another connection, maybe it's very much to the fact that I would say the older the audience, the more traditional their schooling has been. I cannot maybe speak for Finnish system, but still I believe that maybe we have a bit more modern approach to education and learning nowadays. So yeah, non-formal education, even if it's not omnipresent in university classroom, is something people are more open to, even if without this name they kind of get it. And older way is a more traditional schooling system. So okay, I'm going to a training to learn, and automatically the mindset is, very structured, very theoretical, very academic-like. That's at least what I assume and what I kind of saw it working. I mean, the playfulness was sometimes received very positively by adults, that they find it as a very pleasant diversion, because it's like, yeah, okay, we're still in an office setting, for example, so they were still in their workplace, and this made it okay. The playfulness also for me was a way to mark the fact that this session, even though we are in the workplace with all the mental connection that comes from it, this session is not work. And they kind of liked that, because they knew that it was not a kind of regular working day. They were with me, they were doing something different on that day, and this helped very much. Yeah, Emma?
Yeah, this is very interesting. I would maybe separate between having difficulty making people do experiential stuff and going through format, because probably you can also go through format in a very toned down, business suited kind of way. But since we're talking about it, I'm really interested in it. What did you say, like if we're now talking about the experiential playfulness mode, what kind of incentives, because I was listening to Katarina Veselko, for instance, talk about the different states of like the child. Let's talk about like the child state of a person, how to initiate it. So what kind of techniques have you used to initiate the child playful, free, open mind state in the beginning of training, or at that stage?
Well, sometimes I was just proposing a game, like, okay, guys, we are giving a reason, because as I'm a theorist myself, I kind of tend to, you tend to approach others with the way you like. So I first said them, okay, we're doing a game, and the purpose of this game is, I don't know, to break the ice, or this game is like preparing us for the next chapter of theory, or something like that. And the skepticism came from maybe the fact that when you are from the environment, it's like you're wearing your suit, and you are still in an office that maybe you used for more kind of different kind of meetings, or meetings related with your usual tasks. So people are like, you can get why are we doing this with, and you see that the why is a nice way to say I'm not doing this. And then you explain that the playfulness is not just a time filler, but you explain how, okay, you connected with creativity and, having different points of view, divergent things. Well, you basically give all the reasons that I would say we as very non-formal trainers know of the benefits. So you kind of make a point that this method has a goal. This method is carefully chosen for a purpose and fits the training, and not only for the kind of friendliness, which is also definitely a part, but you might see that they don't like this kind of friendliness for the friendliness sake, because I don't know, we have met just 1 hour before, and we are actually strangers. But then they see that this is instrumental to the learning, and of course at this point they usually agree that the learning is the point of the whole day or the whole afternoon. So all the things kind of fall in place, and it's like, oh, okay, the playfulness serves my learning, which is the goal of the day. And so it was not just a funny thing. It is very much connected also with how they see training and how they see it as a serious thing. But for example, I mean, once I was really going strong on this because I was delivering project management to a project management office of this bank, which I felt that maybe in terms of practice and theory, these people probably knew as much as I did, if not possibly more. So it was quite an interesting task. So what I really wanted them to do was an extremely experiential and non-theoretical session, because I felt they were prepared very much in the theoretical part. So a lot of experiential, a lot of sharing, a lot of group discussing. So the playfulness was the thing that made click this new point of view towards project management, and this new approach of more open discussing maybe some methods that they usually kind of took and applied without ever questioning. We discussed about a different approach, and that worked quite well. Does this answer your question, Emma?
Yes, sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties again. But yes, 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 it does. I'm interested in what Kaisa is commenting now.
Yeah, I just wrote there that I feel like it's very hard. Like I have most struggle with it when I have only short amount of time with people. Of course, it's easier when you have like many group sessions with same people. You can kind of convince them and even give knowledge, like why to do things and what's effective learning. But when you have 2 hours or 4 hours, it's like it's hard. And I also feel like in this real professional world, everything is getting so like client oriented that all the organizations, like, we have to please our clients all the time. And then I think it's sometimes hard to go there like, okay, I have something new for you and you haven't seen this before, but they can be quite suspicious. Like, is this effective or does it work? And then even like at our organization, like our chief psychologist might say like, it should be like this or should be like that, but because they like it that way, because they are used to having it this way. So like trying new things is sometimes hard in this professional setting, I think. And people want to get like value for their money, kind of.
Well, trying to answer this in a very formatish kind of way, I would say that if from the beginning you kind of introduce the training with all the aspects, theoretically everybody would see that there is something for them. So hoping that they have at least the patience and the consideration of waiting for it, it makes it a more accepting and understanding audience, I would say. Yeah, I mean, this happens for me. Like sometimes I go to some trainings in which, okay, this is basic, but I know that maybe after 1 hour there is something coming for me. So I'm still there. I'm not, zoning out. I'm still there because I know, hey, it's coming this part that will interest me. So of course, I want to know also the leading to it. So there is the thing. So yeah, like okay, this exercise, but after the exercise, we'll draw a lot of conclusion. So for example, the people that don't want exercises, or well, again, especially if a person wants theory, if you explain the reasons behind an exercise, this goes up their alley. This goes really into their line of thinking because he's giving me explanation. It's like okay, now I can also see, and maybe the other way around would be a more difficult, like to explain to a pragmatist why you need the theory, but yeah, in this way it's like that. And yeah, there are like other questions and this comment.
I have to go.
Yeah. Okay, no worries. So,
Bye.
it was nice seeing you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
About
Okay, I think people are afraid that they're the first students. Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree with you, Blinda. And I would say that somehow you make them feel from the beginning you are safe. And yeah, I guess these are small tips and tricks, as in yeah, sharing something personal, sharing something of yourself. This is kind of puts you down the pedestal if they put you on a pedestal. This makes them more like one-on-one, and still they would still respect you as a trainer because somehow on that day you have that position. And yeah, so sharing something personal or yeah, a bit of self-irony. These are the kind of thing that are understanding. And it's kind of a, how to say, meta/environmental thing that you can really create. Again, if there is the time and space, sometimes there isn't, but if there is the time and space, you can have this kind of warm up, like chit-chatting with people before the actual session starts. All small features that are sending the message you are safe, because I very much agree with you that is so important and makes them happy about pushing themselves. Emma, and you have a question.
I forgot my question, but I have a new topic when we're finished, if there is time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure. I don't know. I'm thinking also of maybe other aspect of format, but yeah, please go ahead with the other topic if everybody's. I don't know any other. Ville and Alena, do you have any specific questions? You've been a bit more silent. No, but you're smiling, so that makes me happy.
We're enjoying listening.
I did have something that I wrote down before, but I think only one of them is actually important at the moment. So
yeah, I see that.
Yeah, what do you think are the reasons behind these learning styles? Like, why do we actually, why are we talking about them, and why do people choose this, or why do they learn like this the most?
Mm-hmm. Is this a trick question, or? I feel this is a trick question,
No,
I might have an opinion about
question. Of course I have my own ideas, but they're just ideas. I have no concrete real information on this. Just
really concluded.
Things that I've been thinking by myself.
I mean, I also very kind of. I have my own opinion, and I just think it's random. Not random, but yeah, like kind of a very extremely personal and not based on any kind of study. So I don't know how useful or how much so, but yeah, I guess Emma also wanted to answer, so please go first.
No. I just said that it really hasn't been proven either way. It's confusing topic, or it like, yeah, there is no conclusion. So I think opinions are very welcome.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I was also like reading some articles, but again, like from Time magazine, not from Scientific American or anything. So yeah, it's like about this kind of the fact that about this kind of talent or innate things that would mainly think about genetics, how much more and more the training and the plasticity of the brain is kept on being proven, and how you can really learn a bit of everything. And so because of that, because of this kind of things that I read around, I would say that very much what we are introduced to, parents, schooling, friends, sports, whatever, is what shapes our learning styles. Yeah, temperaments, like, yeah, okay, then this would go right up my alley, and we can talk about MBTI if you want. So as some guys know, it's a very fascinating topic for me. So yeah,
although when you say temperament, psychologists understand a different thing when the temperament.
But the temperaments are still this kind of, well, tell me if is that right? The temperaments are this kind of, even this basic classification that also Aristotle made a long time ago, this kind of choleric, sanguinic, right? Or not at all?
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay, good. So I have no idea. What do you mean? What do you mean by temperament?
For example, temperament for psychologists and in science in general, it means the biological basis of personality. Period. But of course, then the theories and empirical studies of these have revealed different kinds of factors. For example, the Cloninger's theory of temperament. I'll just give a link. No.
So basically, how you react in a new situation, what is natural, if you're like, if all of your life experiences are put aside for a while, what is your natural way of reacting to situations?
Yeah, basically how you're born with. It's not exactly how you will end up with, as the society and your parents and upbringing in general. Schooling will shape your personality, but that's the basic thing that you're born with, because we're not born as empty templates, but we're born with something, and then
Well, with this definition, I would say this is with this definition of baseline, or this kind of basic thing, it's very much also what a type of personality, because again, like, type as opposed to traits. Those who think in terms of types feel that type is, well, it's evolving and becoming more aware, but still the type does not change. So the type is indeed a sign of something that is the more natural, not necessarily something that we might end up more skilled at, because, as you said, school might make us develop other skills, other ways of thinking, but still it will never be the most natural. And so this also might have an influence in the, I mean, well, it definitely does, because if you want to look at it, if we think, for example, in families of MBTI types, then it's quite clear that certain type would fit into each of the four category of Mumford and Honey, right? There would be a very, very close link if you see the vocabulary, how the MBTI talks about learning styles, because it covers also this topic, just like how different they are for each type, and you would easily make, probably fit, each four in 16 MBTI types, so 4 in each of the quadrant, very, very easily. So, hey, look, we managed to reach MBTI one way or another.
Secret agenda.
Yeah, but I didn't start that. I want you to acknowledge that.
Hey, I have a question on this.
Sure.
Yeah, what is it? Maybe I do know, but what is this thing?
MBTI, yeah, MBTI, yeah, okay. Because at the EFSA Congress, I made a short presentation about it.
Oh,
It's
okay, I wasn't there.
Myers-Briggs type indicator. So this is it's a tool. It's an instrument for personality that was based on Jung personality types work, which was developed by these two ladies in order to have a very practical and simple tool that would be accessible to the larger population. And this defines 16 different types that are fixed. They're not changing as traits. They are kind of they're based on 4 dichotomies. So each person has a type which is defined by 4 letters, because each of the 4 letters define on which of these dichotomies one person stands. So there is about the bit of the things that we were saying before, like sensing how you gather information, judging how you make decisions, the orientation of energy, where do you get your energy, and the orientation to life. So that was MBTI in 1 minute or something. Okay, okay, perfect.
Yeah, but I didn't know the English version of the letter combination. Yeah, thank you.
Any not MBTI, but format. That's what we are here for. Any other format kind of things?
Yes. Okay, this is a thing that I've been struggling with, and I was mentoring today also someone about it, and I noticed that I still struggle with it. How to format a team building? Have you guys done it? Because
what did you say, Emma?
How to format a team building? I don't really, but kind of, but the why and the what if part, of course, but with the what and the how, like gathering information and using information is very much overlapping in team building a lot. So I'm wondering if you find it useful to follow format in a team building.
Can you repeat? Which one do you find overlapping?
The what and the how, because I think why can be why we're here or what is our purpose, and what and how it can include things like what are our values, strengths, weaknesses, and then like in the discussion there is all the time the how, kind of, okay, what are we doing with this information? So I'm thinking, is it at all useful anyway to use format in team building or not?
Well, definitely, it's a more powerful skeleton that includes more, simply because of the fact that even if let's say it's not equally represented in terms of time, because I would say it's hardly so. It's ever hardly so in a training that each quadrant gets a similar amount of time, even if half of what I'm saying, half, it's like, I don't know, 3 quadrants are made in I don't know, 20% of the time, and 1 quadrant is the remaining 80% of the time. Still somehow you fulfill the need of having the candy for everybody, because many times let's say this kind of the why can come as simply expressed by the trainer, as in you are giving the reason. So you don't start, for example, with an exercise and drawing conclusion, where it would be the normal thing, but you simply state the why. So it's kind of, okay, we kind of went, okay, bye-bye, Linda. And so it's kind of it's expressed right away. So there is not maybe we are reaching it together, but still, if I'm a very why-based learner, I'm happy because somebody told me. So in this way, everything that comes later is like, okay, that's good. And also for all the elements are somehow there. And I would say that, well, in a team building, as we usually do, so extremely practical. Yeah, it's true somehow that the how and what are intertwined, but somehow the purpose of that is the how, because you are really kind of doing it and planning. So it's very much how and what if, even though the content of it may look a bit like what, but the what is mainly the definition of the work itself, if it's a team building. So in practice, you are, when you're sharing, when you're creating, I don't know, the group identity, it's very much how and what if. What if, because it's so much experimenting and then a new method, experimenting and a new method, that, well, mentally you go through everything, but you're kind of staying a lot of time performing things that are connected with the third and the fourth quadrant.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think about if we are just gathering strengths and weaknesses, for instance, of a team? Which part, if they're just, let's say, they're writing on post-its and gathering the information, would you say that is a what, because they are gathering their own information and combining it with the information of others? Could that be considered as a what to you, or not?
They're gathering strengths and weaknesses. Well, okay, and the scope is that is a team building training, right? So, yeah, I mean, if the scope is a team building, you're somehow, well, in terms of a team, yeah, this would be very much falling into what, because like the purpose of it would be, I don't know, because you have to organize an event together, or you have to carry on a project, and as you share weaknesses and strengths, this is creating the picture, and as you create the picture, you're kind of describing the team. And especially if you're gathering through post-it, the method itself is very much, okay, we are putting all the pieces together. A very much more interactive exercise when, I don't know, let's say, building a human pyramid or something like that. That is very much into the methods, because you are seeing the team in action together, which is, the final arriving point. So that that is close to that, and the method sees it in action. Sharing, as you said, with post-its and on this topic falls, at least in my opinion, very much into what. Bye, Annalena.
I have the same opinions, basically. I'm just thinking, and I also agree with the having the kind of logical flow, so that, but I'm just thinking, does it make sense to try to focus on information before going into applying in a team building, or just go straight away to having the applying part, kind of skip the what? I don't know yet.
Well, the thing that is a cycle allows you to start pretty much from everywhere. But let's say you just push them in the water. Let's say from the beginning is like you give them a task where they have to perform together right after the introduction. Hello, my name is Emma, and you go right for it. Well, then you're putting them already in the direct active experimentation. And from there, okay, in this moment we are actually starting in the proper way from the beginning. But another option would be like, okay, you just tell them the why. So you're kind of skipping the first quadrant. You're saying it, but you're stating it. It's just a sentence, right? And so somehow mentally check, not fully lived, but in that kind of training, I would say that even if you mention it, you are more starting from the second quadrant, because maybe you just lay down a bit of theory and then define it, yeah, strengths and weaknesses. So we are getting there. And maybe, I don't know, this more why will be the thing that they do as they walk home, because maybe at the end they have some exercise, some games. So they have active experimentation as the last thing of the training. And the why is somehow the homework, how the brain rearranges everything after the training itself. So somehow it happens when you're not even there anymore as a trainer. You can start also, yeah, from different other moments. Also, like, okay, if you jump to, I don't know, okay, how, let's say, really trigger some pragmatist kind of questions. Okay, like, okay, guys, from what do you know about teams, how should be a good way of, yeah, I don't know, building the tower made of paper or whatever other task. Okay, you're already setting the start, which is also a very viable option. You're setting the start of the training from this kind of mental reflection that comes from what? In this case, the pre-existing knowledge. So you did not introduce any theory. So let's say, you know, what would happen as the second step on the right side of the thing. You're already starting with this very sensing that you were asking from before. It's like, in your opinion, okay, so from all the theories that you might know or not even know, what makes sense to you, what is the way to go about? So selecting from the pre-knowledge that they have, no matter from where, the line of action, pragmatic approach, finding your own strategy to do stuff, and then you do stuff. And then this could be also a very interesting way, right? Okay, everybody shares the approach, then there is the active experimentation with their own ways of doing it. So you see you're going third, fourth quadrant, and then maybe you can reflect. So this would be a very much more, I would say, drawing conclusion. And so the final step maybe here is the quadrant 2, which comes, so in the end we get, at least for this team, for ourselves, what is the definition of a team right after having defined why do we do this.
Interesting. And also, like, debriefing an exercise when they have to carry around buckets somewhere, and then they're reflecting on what happened, and then they're building the theory of what they did, what it means. So they're abstractly conceptualizing, okay, our communication worked this and this way, so they're building a pattern, and then there might be trying it out in a different exercise, or they will try it out when they actually work in real life, and maybe in a follow-up or another discussion they will correct the pattern of how our communication works, for instance.
Exactly. Well, I would say that, okay, we started with the question about storytelling, right? So it kind of led me to think, because, as I said, I used only storytelling in very small parts of my training. But when it comes to an activity, to an exercise, well, there, if it's done properly, you know, with instructions and the right time for the briefing and all the stage of the briefing, there, definitely you go through the whole format cycle, because you have all the elements. You really have all the elements. So if you look to team building as a very exercise/activity-based training, all of them as a succession of them, one after another, or let's say as a big one, still format is there. You can jump some parts, but if you look at even a more traditional training on any other topic, the activity part definitely fulfills very nicely the format cycle.
Yeah, great.
Again, like for example, imagine how detailed instruction do you do? How much do you clearly explain what is the final goal or not? Or I don't know, you just hand out some roles. We're like, okay, guys, you have to perform this. Read your roles. Like very, you don't give future perspective, but you just, bam, I'm just setting up the thing for the exercise to happen without very forelooking where is the final ending point. You see, you're starting from different point of the format cycle. But if this, for example, if this kind of, okay, here is your role, go and perform part, ideally, at the end of the debriefing, you should close the cycle and make sure that, not only you get the why, but you also go up until the what, okay? Because this, again, would be maybe starting from quadrant number 3, going through 4 and 1, but then don't forget to maybe do number 2, because it was not really defined. It was really push in the water and swim. So that's the nice thing of a good trainer, to make sure that all these needs and learners are satisfied, even in the small scope of, I don't know, half an hour or 40 minutes exercise.
This is very common mistake, to make them experiment and then just ask, so how did you feel and stuff, and kind of sometimes I think it's the part where you have to be most pushy. So sometimes kind of you might skip it because you have to kind of milk it out of them a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Very, very good expression. And you want that for the common benefit. If it does not come, I would say, even if it's maybe a bit artificial, I would say you even state that, because if they were, let's say, too much into the exercise, you offer the external point of view that you have the benefit of having as a trainer. But then, okay, you tell them, let's say they wouldn't be able to see it, maybe because they are too much inside. You state it, but then you make sure that they get it. Like, okay, I wouldn't have thought of this as a participant. Okay, now the trainer tells me this. Is it like that? So rest for a moment. So again, otherwise it would be, again, okay, he told me, I kind of ignored it as a participant. Again, I did not fulfill one of the steps of the cycle.
Yes, very interesting.
Make sure they do, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So this is what I'm doing Friday night, and I'm enjoying it.
Yay!
Trainers, crazy trainers.
Yeah, it's cool. For example, I mean, the kind of nice haha a bit moment for the participant is like after this day of training design. But yeah, you even did this in Malta. I don't know, probably you did also this year. When you kind of go, you bring the participant to look at the global schedule of the TTT, for example, and you show them that this also kind of follows the format. So you really see how this can adapt to wide variety of length, of scope, because yeah, actually in a TTT you have a lot of meat. There are a lot of topics, and this is also a very good reflection into the format.
I have one extra topic, or
Please.
something still to go for us, like appetizer kind of way. How do you see format in pitching? Like, if you had to pitch something, have you like? What's your opinion about that?
That if your pitch includes all of them, like again, you include all of the listeners. It's. I mean, I see it in this kind of moment in which you have to be extremely effective. I'm thinking also of this very kind of NLP stuff of making sure that you capture the visuals, the auditory, and the kinesthetic kind of people. It's a bit, you put one ingredient for everybody, and in terms of inclusion of the audience, of engagement of the audience, this should serve the purpose best. Again, you might spend some more time in one of them. Okay, especially if we're talking about pitching, maybe it's you just focus on the why. I mean, this would be what it would come natural to think, because yeah, when you kind of get the why, you probably get the curiosity. But if you can glide through all the others, again, you're more inclusive. Like at least in the startup weekends that I've been to, I see that you really kind of want to show the final ending point. So why people are doing that, and mainly because it's a kind of it's a need, because the what and how are still a bit blurry even for the startup teams sometimes. So not to talk about the what if, and yeah, but ideally it would be like, okay, maybe you show me the final result, so the kind of why this this startup, why this project, why this venture is there, the reason for the very existence, and then providing all the other elements, create an inclusive environment. Bye bye, Ville. Nice seeing you again.
It was nice to see you again. Ciao, guys.
Bye.
Enjoy and have a good flight.
I will. Thank you. Bye.
Really good. Bye bye.
Where is he flying to?
He's flying to Bucharest tomorrow morning, kinda. Tomorrow, yeah, morning, I guess.
Cool.
Yeah, for 9 days.
I see.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know, pitching for you, it's like in this, I mean, I don't know, pitching I kind of connected to startups and projects, or I don't know, or did you mean it in other fields, or?
No, I have actually, like, I need to go to some place to tell what kind of entrance exams Finland as a nation needs to have.
What kind of, what exams you said? What kind of
entrance exams to applied sciences schools in nursery and social care.
Like a admission test or something like this.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, entrance exam. Yeah.
There is some work to do on that field in Finland, and I need to do some kinds of stuff for that. I'm gonna make this world a bit better place by presenting better entrance exams.
Yeah, again, let's say the topic, I mean, this seems a very, I would say, complex topic, so I would go for a very possible inclusion of all the elements of format. And again, I'm assuming, but if you are presenting something on this topic, I believe that you have a very good knowledge of the issue and like the strategies and what should be done and what not. So thinking of the background you have, this comes very easy to build a kind of format-based presentation in which you mention all this. If I'm, I don't know, 3 friends with a crazy idea of an app, maybe I based my presentation on what I know. Well, again, without why, it wouldn't really be a good starting point. But maybe you have one thing that is more clear and other things that are more blurry, so you just focus on what is more clear. In your case, I feel that you have all the elements, so kind of put them all there, fire all your weapons.
Yeah, that was like really good, like, points for even pitching, which is quite like short. You don't have a lot of time or interaction to include like all sorts of elements to every kind of listeners, participants, to every type of learner. I mean, that's the thing I didn't think about yet, like about how to do good, excellent, close to perfect pitch.
Guys, I need to go as well. I will end the show. So if you stick around, I will end the official recording. So if you still want to say something for like the audience.
Off the record, we'll comment.
Audience, you were amazing.